few weeks ago, we presented a story on those foods we crave: barbecue, meat, and comfort foods. Those dishes are great, and they're fine for our health as long as we don't overindulge. This time around, we're going to discuss healthier fare and how you can make just a few changes in your cooking habits to achieve it. Just because something is considered healthy doesn't mean it has to be flavorless and contain a lot of strange ingredients that you can only find in certain grocery stores. Our guests say that just being aware of what you eat, what's on the package label, how to buy and cook fresh foods, and how much salt and fat are in the product can go a long way toward creating a flavorful and more nutritious meal. First is Diane Morgan, an award-winning cookbook author who is a huge fan of salmon. In fact, her latest cookbook is all about America's third favorite seafood. It's titled Salmon: Everything You Need to Know, plus 45 recipes. Morgan says that salmon is one of the healthiest proteins out there and contains substances that protect many parts of our bodies.
It's considered a superfood. Anytime you read articles and books on salmon, they're talking about how it's optimal for your health, it's heart healthy, it's packed with omega-3s that helps lower blood triglycerides and your cholesterol levels. It's an anti-inflammatory. And it's really great for your eye health. Omega-3s also significantly lower the risk of macular degeneration. So it's just all around a great protein source.
There are two general types of salmon found in the U.S., Atlantic and Pacific salmon. Although they are raised in different ways, Morgan says that their nutritional makeups are pretty much the same.
Atlantic salmon is not available other than farmed, because back in the 60s when they used sonar, they basically fished out the Atlantic of salmon. So there were just not enough to head back up the waterways to spawn. So they developed the farming practices. And Pacific salmon is wild. It is wild caught. And most of the salmon coming off of the Pacific is coming out of Alaska, but there are fishing stocks out of Washington, Oregon, and California.
Wild-caught salmon doesn't always start out its life the way you might think. Although you can find Pacific salmon that was born the natural way, Morgan says that wild-caught salmon start out their lives in hatcheries. They're then released into the wild as fingerlings, eating all of the same krill that naturally hatched salmon do, and turning that lovely orangey-red color. Morgan says that when you buy salmon, it should look the way all fresh fish should: plump, glistening, no fishy smell, and if it's a whole fish, it should have bright, clear eyes. Also, there shouldn't be a lot of liquid in the pan it's displayed in. Salmon, both Atlantic and Pacific, can be pricey, but she says that we don't need to eat very much of it to enjoy its flavor and health benefits.
We have this sense that somehow we should be eating 6 to 8 ounces as a portion of fish, and we really don't need to be. We can eat 3 to 5 ounces. It's perfectly satisfying for our bodily needs, maybe not for the mouthful, but to eat 3 ounces of fish and call that a portion size.
In her book, Morgan has recipes for green curry braised salmon, Indian spice rubbed salmon, and grilled salmon tacos with chipotle sauce. You always think of fish as having a delicate flavor. Can salmon really stand up to all those bold flavors?
It is strong enough to withstand it, and I am really careful about not masking the flavor of any fish I cook, in particular salmon. So if there's a recipe in the book that has a bold flavor, it's there because it's complementing the fish and not because it's overpowering the salmon itself. So I'm really, really particular about that. And salmon can take on, because of the high fat levels in the fish, good fat, that it can take on some of these bolder flavors.
One of Morgan's favorite parts of the salmon is the skin, and she has a recipe in the book for crispy salmon skin, which she calls bacon of the sea. Who doesn't love bacon? But oh, the fat and salt it contains. Well, you can cut down on fat and salt and still enjoy that unctuous pork flavor. Jessica Goldman Fong says all you have to do is make it yourself, controlling the amount of fat it has and eliminating the salt altogether. Fong had lupus-related kidney failure and can't eat much sodium, so she devised recipes for people who have to watch their salt intake and put them in her cookbook, Low So Good, a guide to real food, big flavor, and less sodium.
It's so simple. It really is just sliced pork belly that you cook in the oven for an hour and that you finish in a hot pan. And you season it with all of those bacon, sweet, savory flavors with the help of cumin and smoked paprika and a little liquid smoke if you can do it. And it tastes just like bacon, feels just like bacon. You can use it in any recipe that calls for bacon, and it only has the natural sodium found in the pork.
Fong says that we need salt for our bodies to function, and the American Heart Association suggests that we take in no more than 2,300 milligrams a day, or about 1 teaspoon. However, most of us take in 4,000 milligrams a day, but not from the salt shaker.
The salt from the salt shaker and the sodium from the salt shaker actually only equals about 5 to 10% of the sodium we're eating in a day, and over 70% of what we are consuming comes from processed or packaged ingredients.
Fong says that we like salt because of its ability to enhance foods, such as magnifying and waking up flavors, balancing other tastes, and even releasing aromas in food. It also tastes, well, salty, which is satisfying in itself. But we don't need to add extra salt to enjoy our meals. She even has a favorite comfort food that's easy to make and contains no added sodium, a ramen noodle bowl in a jar. It's called genmaicha tea microwave soup.
You basically fill a microwavable jar, whether it's a mason jar or something else, with a bunch of raw ingredients. So sliced bok choy, zucchini noodles, some cooked noodles if you are eating wheat or rice products. Sliced shiitake mushroom has a natural umami flavor, a spice blend, some cooked proteins, and you put it all in the jar, and there's no liquid in it, and you throw it in your vat. And then when you get to work, you actually put in a genmaicha tea bag, which is a green tea with toasted brown rice, has that umami flavor, a savory flavor, and you cook it in the microwave with water, and what you end up with is this very delicate Asian-inspired noodle soup that is full of healthful ingredients. It's super low in sodium, and you will probably never go back to the over-salted stuff again.
Fong says that without salt, which, by the way, is the only seasoning besides black pepper that we're taught to use in this country, food can taste bland. That's why she says you have to substitute other seasonings in salt's place to bring out flavors in food, such as curry, cumin, red pepper flakes, and sumac, or trying ingredients that you've never used before. But it's not only salt we crave. We also love fat. It makes food taste unctuous and satisfying, but too much can wreak havoc on our bodies. Not all fats are bad, though, and eating lean doesn't mean completely eliminating them from our diets. Allison Kramer has figured out how to make delicious foods with good fats that can keep a body healthy and trim. She's the author of Naturally Lean, 125 nourishing, gluten-free, plant-based recipes, all under 300 calories. But what are the good fats?
I think that the typical guideline is around 25 grams of fat. And with those fats, you want to really seek out non-hydrogenated types of fats, nothing that comes from a chemical processing plant. I recommend foods that are high in fat and also in nutrition, such as avocados or cashews. Any types of nuts is really great. And even some high-quality oils in moderation. Coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, extra virgin is very good for you. And if you eat animal products, definitely seek out the ones that are good quality. So I really recommend, if you're going to go that route, go for grass-fed. And the higher fat is better than a lot of the fat-free products have a ton of added sugars to them. And that's not a better choice, I think, than what nature would provide. So if you can find it growing in a garden or on a tree, that's probably a good indicator that the fat is good for you.
Kramer cooks gluten-free because she has celiac disease and can't eat wheat products. But plant-based gluten-free dishes are tasty for anyone, even if they don't have any dietary restrictions. It also opens up a whole new area of culinary creativity for the home cook.
there is such a great variety out there besides just wheat. And I don't think that anyone needs to cut out gluten unless they have a gluten intolerance or celiac disease. However, it is really nice to add less gluten into your diet or foods that are gluten-free into your diet, because you'll really kind of get the benefits of so many great grains that you might pass up otherwise. If you can't eat wheat, you would go for whole grain wheat instead of whole grain sorghum or chickpea flour or buckwheat or millet or amaranth. All of these are really great grains that I think people should really become familiar with because they're fun and they're delicious and they're very nutritious.
They're also very easy to make. Kramer's summertime quinoa bowl can be put together in about 30 minutes, and her zesty black bean soup is just as quick and very satisfying on a cold, rainy day. There are also recipes for those whose tastes run to the sweeter side.
I love the vanilla almond granola. I probably eat that at least once a week. I make up a big batch and I eat it with unsweetened almond milk. I also love the nutty butter cookies. I really do like the summertime quinoa bowl. And one of my favorite recipes that I think is a really neat addition to people that might not be familiar with plant-based or gluten-free eating is the magnificent mushroom pizza because of the crust. It uses chickpea flour, and it's a really simple crust to whip up. You don't have to have any rising time or anything with that. And you can bake it right away, and you can put whatever toppings you want on it. And it's high protein, pretty low fat, and the calories are very full of nutrition.
All of our guests suggest that you venture out of your culinary comfort zone this year and try new flavors and ingredients to spice up your cooking and create fresher and healthier meals for you and your family. You can find out more about Alison Kramer and her book Naturally Lean on her website at allysonkramer.com. To learn more about Jessica Goldman Fong and her book Low So Good, visit her site at sodiumgirl.com. And for everything you ever wanted to know about buying and cooking one of America's favorite fish, pick up Diane Morgan's book Salmon and visit her at dianemorgancooks.com. For more information about all of our guests, log on to our site at viewpointsonline.net. You can find archives of past programs there and on iTunes and Stitcher. Our show is written and produced by Pat Reuter. Our production directors are Sean Waldron and Reed Pence. I'm Marty Peterson.
Medicare and their list of suppliers continue to change, so if you have diabetes, it may affect where you get your testing supplies. But rest assured that your number one doctor-recommended one-touch testing supplies are always covered by Medicare Part B at your local pharmacy and select mail-order suppliers. Dr. Brian Levy, Chief Medical Officer at LifeScan, maker of one-touch products.
Some mail-order suppliers may offer a limited selection of diabetes testing supplies. They may try to switch you to a different brand, saying your current products are no longer covered. That's just not true. You are entitled to continue using the products you know and trust and that have been recommended by your healthcare professional at no additional cost.
Remember, you have a choice. Stay with the number one brand used by Medicare patients. For questions about coverage or where to get your one-touch testing supplies, call 1-844-942-2654 or visit www.onetouch.com/Medicare. Medicare Part B is not a guarantee of coverage and payment, which may be subject to coinsurance, deductible, and patient eligibility requirements.